Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or if you so happen to be welcoming back from my third video, then hello, but again, probably not. So, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Cheyenne, and here on my channel we talk about all things inexplicably interesting, mysterious, and just downright creepy enough to keep you up at night. So, if that's what you like, then hopefully you like this video. As always, I like short, sweet intros. I like to watch them, so I don't want to make mine personally too long, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the video. Okay, so today we have a cold case to talk about, actually. This is going to be about the disappearance of Dorothy Jane Scott. This one was really creepy, actually. I said that last time, but this one was actually really creepy. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and take a shot, y'all, actually. Don't judge me, but I've been drinking tonight. It's a Friday night. I'm drinking, so it's a drunk, not story time because this ain't my story to tell, but it's a drunk story retelling. I don't know what it is, y'all, but like, this is my third shot of the night, and this ain't been tasting the same. I don't know, it just tastes nastier than usual. Got the lime here. Cheers if you're also drinking on this Friday night. You won't see this until afterwards probably, but if you were drinking this Friday night, shout out to you. Now let's get into the video. So a little bit about Dorothy Jane Scott. She was born on April 23rd, 1948. At the time of her disappearance, she was actually living with her aunt and her 4-year-old son named Sean. They lived in Stanton, California. At the time, she was working two jobs, actually. She worked as a secretary at two jointly owned shops in Anaheim named Swinger's Psych Shop and Custom John's Head Shop. The Psych Shop was previously owned by her father, and John had bought it from Dorothy's father, Jacob. Now, Dorothy's co-workers described her as someone she stayed at home, she was a devout Christian, she never drank or did drugs. Her father, Jacob, actually said that she may have dated occasionally, but there was really no present boyfriend in her life at the time of her disappearance. While she was working, her parents would watch her son, and every evening her parents said that she would pick her son up from them after she got off of work, and they would go home. She would make dinner for them, and they would either then watch cartoons or read a book. She honestly had a pretty easy life up until the point where she started receiving some really mysterious phone calls. Before her disappearance and murder, Dorothy actually began receiving calls from an anonymous male that she didn't know. She had actually told her mother that she recognized the voice, but she couldn't pinpoint exactly who it was. In these calls, these creepy calls, the man would profess his love for Dorothy and even threaten to kill her. He claimed to have been stalking her, which pretty much confirmed to be true considering the fact that he would actually, when he called Dorothy, he would give her very accurate details of her day-to-day life. Her mother actually recounted on one incident the man had called Dorothy and told her that he had a surprise for her outside. When she went outside, she had found a single dead rose on her windshield. In another call, he had gruesomely said that he was going to cut her up into little bitty pieces so that no one would ever find her. The day of the murder, which was May 20th, 1980, Dorothy had dropped her son Sean off to her parents' house because she had a company meeting that she had to go to at 9 p.m. What company meeting is being held at 9 p.m.? During the meeting, she noticed her co-worker Cameron had a bite on his arm. It was red and inflamed, and he overall just didn't look very well, and he himself was actually complaining about a pain in his arm. Because of that, Dorothy and her co-worker Pam they ended up taking him to the emergency room at UCI, or University of California, Irvine. On their way to the hospital, Dorothy changed her scarf. She was wearing a black scarf and she changed it to a red one. And then she also stopped by her parents' house to see her son before heading back to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, they discovered that Cameron was suffering from a black widow bite, and based on that to treat him accordingly. They remained in the ER with Cameron for a few hours. Pam had actually said that they were there the entire time. They waited there for hours, and Dorothy nor Pam left one time, not one single time the entire time that they were there. While I'm talking, y'all, I'm about to take another shot. While they were at the hospital, Cameron, the co-worker, eventually started to feel better, and he was discharged at 11 p.m. and given a prescription for the spider bite. Once he received the prescription, Pam had offered to stay with Cameron while he filled the prescription, and Dorothy had offered to bring her car to the exit, which is nearer where they were, because she didn't want Cameron walking too far given his condition. Pam said that before Dorothy went to get the car, she had briefly went to the bathroom and then she went out to go get the car as she and Cameron went to go fill the prescription that Cameron had received from the doctor for the bite. After they had filled the prescription, they had been waiting for some time and they noticed that Dorothy was kind of taking a little bit long. Because of this, they went out to the ER parking lot to see what was going on. Upon arriving at the ER parking lot, they actually saw Dorothy's car speeding towards them. At this point, they think it's Dorothy in the car, and so they start like waving at the car to let her know, but the car's lights, they couldn't see who was in the car because the lights were blinding them, and as they were waving the car trying to get it to stop, the car actually ended up just speeding right past them. Pam and Cameron weren't sure what was going on, but they had figured that she might have an emergency with her son, and that's why she sped off in such a hurry. However, after they didn't hear from her for a few hours, that's when they had filed a missing person report. Not too long after her disappearance, her car was found burning in an alley, which wasn't too far from the hospital that Pam, Cameron, and Dorothy were at. Okay, so this is where we get into the creepy caller person. This is so, I can't imagine honestly being a parent and having to go through this. Like, losing your child is hard enough, but to have the person that probably did it to be taunting you is like, I can't even imagine that. About a week later after Dorothy's disappearance, her parents got a phone call. Her mother answered the phone and the person on the other line said, "Are you related to Dorothy Scott?" To which her mother replied, "Yes, I am." Her mother's name is Vera, by the way. The man on the other line said, "I've got her." He quickly hung up, and then, even weird enough, the same man that had called that day continued to call the house pretty much every Wednesday afternoon for the next 4 years. Each call he made was very brief, and the calls also only came when Vera was home. They never came when Jacob was home. The police didn't want Dorothy's parents putting anything out about the investigation, just in case the real killer did come forward with some information that wasn't mentioned in any type of news articles or anything, because at that point then they would know that that person was the killer, because, you know, how else would he know? But Jacob got tired of waiting for the investigation, so he called a news station by the name of Orange County and told them about the investigation, and due to that, they had actually run a story about Dorothy's disappearance on June 12, 1980. That same day, they received a call from a man that said, this quote was provided by the managing editor of Orange County Register. Like I said, these calls continued for about 4 years until they stopped, and actually what stopped them was in April of 1984, again, the man had called, but for the first time ever, Jacob actually picked up, not Vera as usual. Once the man had actually heard Jacob's voice, again, the calls never lasted long to begin with, but this one was especially short, and he pretty much hung up immediately. Now, that brings up the theory that the man either just didn't want to speak to Jacob, or B, that the man basically had called Jacob. Since Vera was the one that was always picking up the phone, when Jacob answered, he realized that Jacob might know him. Again, the calls Dorothy was receiving, she did say she recognized the voice, and it could possibly have been the same man calling Jacob and Vera. The fact that more than likely, if you're going to, I don't mean to scare you guys or anything, but if you're going to be murdered or really any type of violent crime, I didn't tell you guys this in my About Me video, but I do study criminology. If anything's going to happen to you, it's more than likely going to be by someone you actually know. So the calls eventually stopped. August 6th of 1984, a construction worker had actually found the bones of a dog and human remains inside of the forest. When the construction worker discovered them, the bones had actually been severely charred, and when they were discovered, the forensic people, they had asserted that the bones had been there for at least 2 years, because the charring was due to a bushfire that had happened 2 years prior, back in 1982. Also found with the remains was a turquoise ring and a watch as well, and both of those items were identified as Dorothy's. This is the part that like really creeped me out. I don't know about you guys, but the watch that they had found with Dorothy was actually stopped at 4:30 a.m. on May 29th, which was around when her car was found burning in the alley and nobody was to be found. So it's just, you know, at that point that the kidnapper, whoever he was, he didn't wait long to kill her. Like, he pretty much kidnapped her to kill her. Unfortunately enough for her parents, the calls started up again. This was 2 days after the bones were discovered, and the person, pretty much same routine as before, but he was asking questions like, is Dorothy there? Just being extremely insensitive. Like, I feel like insensitive is an understatement, but you get what I'm saying. This was done previously with the other calls as well, but once they started again, the police did install a voice recorder and also one of the trackers so they could try and track where the call was coming from, but the person on the other line was smart enough to know never to stay on the line long enough, because if you don't know, you do have to stay on the line for a certain amount of time before you can be tracked. So he never stayed on the line long enough for the police to actually track where the call was coming from. As for possible suspects in the investigation, a lot of people were looked at, one of them being Sean's father. However, he actually had an airtight alibi. He was in Missouri at the time the murder was committed, so obviously he could not have done it. And because of that, he was immediately ruled out as a suspect. Another one that I actually found pretty recently, only because I'm gonna try not to keep this too long, but as I was researching this case, again, this is a cold case, and I found somebody that had a website where she was actually keeping up with it. And so she had actually spoke to Sean, again, Dorothy's son, and he learned through Dorothy's friends, again, now that he's way older, that it could have been someone that Dorothy knew named Mike Butler. Apparently, Mike Butler was obsessed with Dorothy. He tried to talk to her a few times, but she wouldn't budge. He also had a sister that worked at the same place that Dorothy did. Apparently, he was obsessed with her and was also involved in cult activity. Now, because he was involved in cult activity, the dog bones that were found with Dorothy may be a possible link between the two, but no official evidence was actually found to officially link him as a suspect. A memorial was held for Dorothy Jane Scott on August 22nd, 1984. Unfortunately, the case is still unsolved. They never found who did it, and Dorothy's parents have both passed away, so they died without ever knowing who did that to their daughter. Oh, that was a hard one, guys. I don't know if it's because I'm slightly tipsy or what, but I was like kind of tearing up a little bit. Like that's just so sad. But yeah, so I don't even know if you like that video. Like what? I don't know. Hopefully you found this video interesting, and if so, you'll be back for another video or back to watch another video. Again, free Cheyenne checking out. Hopefully I'll see you back for another video. Maybe not. I want to say can I see you back for another video, but I am not even being consistent myself. So can I expect you guys to be consistent in watching my videos? Probably not. So if you like this video, please. No, I said in my last video I wasn't going to tell people to subscribe and stuff anymore, and here I am like, please. No, but if you guys like this video, then great. Hopefully that's good. Yeah, and again, we like short outros just like we like short intros, so I'm gonna see myself out. Bye guys.